All right, I'm sitting down with Tyler Spades and his dog Ember, and my recent infatuation with the fire contact sword has caused me to reach out to him and learn what I can. I'm a beginner with this prop. He's an expert. I had a series of 5 ideas that contextualize my use of the prop in performance, as a performance intro. He's good enough to where he uses them as a finale. So between the two of us, there's beginner skill level and expert skill level, and everywhere in between on how to go from me, my level, to his level. So why don't we start by talking about this unique prop?
So this is a fire contact sword. The difference between a fire sword and a fire contact sword is this pommel, this big weight at the end. So a fire sword would just be this big wick that is reminiscent of a blade of a sword with a handle. There's been a lot of these around since like fire dancing began. You know, even just like a giant torch wrapped up can be wielded like a fun sword. The thing that makes this unique, and what was created by Bear Claw Manufacturing and designed by Tedward and Ryan Riff out of California, is balancing the blade and the handle. So you get this balance point right in the middle of the handle. So this is all safe to grab, and this is all the fire. But all of a sudden, I can do these moves where I balance the handle, roll it across my body, and do different tricks with it that make it extremely visually pleasing. Kind of like a Jedi lightsaber floating around your body.
Oh yeah.
It's very reminiscent of the impossibility, because people just mentally think, that's got to be so heavy. How could it be floating so effortlessly around you? So it provides an amazing illusion.
Yeah, visually it's a great illusion. I like the fact that you can do contact tricks with it as well as just wield it like a sword. So it kind of functions as 2-in-1, which is going to be a large part of the conversation that we have. You know, not just contact, but also the images and vibes you can create with a sword in general.
I feel like I'd also like to start with, this is actually a bear claw sword. So this is one of the original fire contact swords ever created. Very vintage, from about 10 years ago. I first saw a fire sword when I was at the Festival of Fire Drums down in California. This spinner by the name of Brandon Simpson was playing with it. He is an amazing contact staff spinner. Even his videos from 10 years ago are still relevant. But I saw him out in the circle, and I immediately had to figure out what that was. The giant blade of the sword just stands out in the circle. He was spinning it like a contact staff and just blowing my mind, doing angel rolls and conveyor belts. Ran over, I asked if I could play with it. He let me, and I immediately bought 2 of them. And I went home, and I played with them for a ton all that year. And within a year or two, Tedward from Bear Claw Manufacturing reached out and asked if he could use one of my videos on his website. So that was a huge honor. It was one of the first times I had a company reach out to me and ask me to be featured on their website. So this is one of the old original ones. It has a brass doorknob handle, actually, at the end as a weight. They have a tapered grip of, like, I think it's like a cork grip they had. But as you can see, the original models, the balance point is much, much closer to the blade, right about there. That's only about 4 or so inches away from where the fire is. Where the newer models, like this is from Ninja Pirate, the balance point is like right where that white mark is. So as you can see, much more room, much more safety. The other thing that's been improved with these is they've figured out ways to soften the pommel. So the parts of the sword is the pommel is the weight, the handle is the non-fire, and the blade is the fire. And yeah, so they have that kind of covered to be a bit safer. They have more room here to be a bit safer. One thing I've always liked, though, is trying to get that balance point not too far away. I don't want it to look like it's too safe. I still want that illusion of danger. This is one of the older Ninja Pirate ones. I'll pass that back. And then we got one of the newer ones here, which actually has a rubber pommel. And then, of course, there are other companies that make them, like Wizard Tricks. They use an acrylic ball, a very beautiful-looking pommel. There's Dark Monk. They have, I think, a rubberized pommel now at this point. So there's all sorts of ones. And then we got this guy here too, which is just a practice sword. Carbon fiber, super lightweight. Like, this thing is super lightweight and really nice to practice the tricks with.
Yeah, reflective too.
Catches the light for stage performance without fire.
Oh yeah.
So there's also a lot of lightsaber products out there now. Some are balanced specifically for flow manipulation. Some are more meant for stage props, you know, like Comic-Cons and things like that. So if you look around, there's going to be a few on the market. They all have the different specialties and unique quirks. I'm actually working with a company right now called Ants on a Melon. They're going to be releasing a brand new product in the coming months that they're going to be having a Kickstarter for that is a really cool new lightsaber that is going to be balanced to be used as a contact sword.
Well, considering my affinity for Star Wars, I'm going to have to pick one of those up. Yeah, swords have worked their way through so many different cultures. It was inevitable that they got into the flow arts community. And luckily, by sitting down with you, I feel as though you are not just limited to our community, like spinning sticks. It's like, no, you perform for people who are not part of that community, and so you're able to bring that to a much wider variety of people than just like Pacific Fire Gathering. To transition into our first main point, I think that martial arts are recognized by most people, and you were in a martial arts class before you ever spun fire. Do you want to tell the narrative of how one led into the other?
Sure. Yeah, when I was like pretty young in middle school, my dad enrolled me, him, and my sister into Tang Sudo, which is a martial arts form created by Chuck Norris, actually.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, not many people know that about me, but I was trained under Chuck Norris's style with a photo of him in our dojo.
Legitimately trained by Chuck Norris.
Not him in person. It was one of his disciples.
Yeah.
But yes, it was his lineage. It was his lineage.
Oh my gosh.
And I did stick forms, which is a shorter stick, but you don't hold it like a staff in the center. You hold it more like a sword at the end. And so it's kind of like two small bats. And the whole thing of that was the most accessible weapons form to find, because you could just break a stick off of any tree or pick it off the ground and you have a weapon. So, exactly. So I would learn these kind of forms as if they were short swords. And then it wasn't until years later in college that at the Oregon Country Fair, I saw someone spinning a fire staff. Through martial arts, I knew how to spin staff. So I went home, looked online. This was like 14 years ago, so there wasn't much information out there, and what was out there was not very well vetted. So I learned how to make a staff from a tutorial that said, go to the hardware store and buy a piece of aluminum tubing and
metal.
Wrap some wick on there with metal wire, you know. But I did it, and it worked, and I'm still here to this day. And after a few years, I figured out that there's a big community out there, there's more people that do this, that there's all these tricks to learn instead of just spinning it in a circle.
Right.
And got really, really into it. I think I saw an angel roll on one of MCP videos on YouTube.
Like what year?
That was like 14 years ago. So that was like,
Wow.
what would that be, like 2005?
Yeah.
Around that time, 2005, 6.
I don't know, angel rolls were happening then.
They were. MCP, man. And it wasn't always on YouTube. It was on tribe.net and things like that, where they'd have these different like videos out there, where you had to really search them out. But then after I graduated college in 2009, I came up to Portland, Oregon, and there was a huge community here of Burning Man camps and people, as well as fire dancers. And I saw some fire dancers at a Burning Man decompression party. I really got to be friends with a big community here and got to see some of these tricks in action and really just like developed a lot quicker. It's like super level up when you can see it in person and get some tips about it.
Yeah, made a bunch of friends. Like, this just made me think of something. It's really good to get your son or daughter in martial arts because it prepared, like, you don't know what it's preparing them for via the discipline and the ability to wield a stick or a prop and the ability to learn from, you know, a cultural icon. I mean, that's kind of an extreme version, but like somebody who is very disciplined, right? They're just disseminating their discipline to, you know, dozens of people at once. And that has sort of a butterfly effect of giving you a framework to learn new, and I don't want to say tricks, but like frameworks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, learning how to learn is one of the best skills you can do in life.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is a huge thing about a lot of these schools, but yeah.
Like martial arts schools.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that's nice about martial arts and the contact sword in a fire context is that I think it's amazing when you have a prop you're using in a show that someone who is not a show performer can relate to.
Yes.
So,
familiarity.
Yeah, familiarity. It really goes a long way. So when you see someone have a hat, take it off and do a hat trick and put it on, you get really excited because like, I have a hat. I've seen that hat. You know?
Or when they take my hat and do it and then put it back on my head and it's all sideways and like,
yeah.
And Patrick does it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's nice to have something that's familiar to the audience.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
like a poi, which is like a fire on a rope or a ball on a rope, it's not easily relatable.
Yeah.
You don't come across that in daily life.
I've heard nice pom-poms, nice balls.
Yeah.
Like, kind of roll my eyes.
Yo-yo.
Yeah, yo-yo, that's a classic one.
But a sword, you instantly are like, that is a sword. You know what it is, you know what it's used for. It comes with a certain sort of respectability, responsibility, discipline, things along that line. You have an expectation of how it's going to be used. And the beautiful thing about having that balance point and being able to do all the tricks is it goes beyond just being the sword you've seen in martial arts.
Exactly.
It goes into like the Jedi, the magic, that you make the lightsaber just come to you. It's like it has that kind of feel to it, that illusion.
Yeah, it's like not everyone participated in martial arts growing up, but you either watched Karate Kid, had a friend who did karate, pretended to do it with your friends like in the woods with sticks, or saw movies of it. So it's like you can't avoid the sword or the staff.
You know the reference.
Ninja Turtles, yeah.
And now Disney owns Star Wars, so it's everywhere with lightsabers.
It's reaching younger and younger generations. So for me in my performances, the intro relying on a prop that is connected to martial arts, simply put, allows me to reach a wider audience. Would you say that that's accurate?
Yeah, I like the relatability. I think once you can create a connection with your audience, you're going to have an easier time impressing them and having an impressive piece for them. They already have a relationship with there that you can build on.
Yeah. All right, so we talked about martial arts. That's the philosophy, and most notably the discipline behind the prop and the movements with that prop. Looking more specifically than just its place in our culture would simply be the construction. We talked about like the grip and the history, but just the physical, the feature of this product is a large wick. That when I hold it like this, like put your hand, how high does the flame get if it's fully soaked?
I mean, if you soak this all in white gas, Coleman fuel, and you lit it, it would take about 5 seconds for the flame to get to about here.
Yeah. And you can see that from very far away.
Yeah.
I think it's the human eye can pick up a candle from like a mile away or like something crazy like 5 miles away in the darkness.
This is like the difference of a candle and a bonfire.
Yeah, it's like a bonfire in your hand.
Yeah.
It is truly incredible. Like
it commands respect.
Just going like this creates like, I call it a wall of flame.
Yeah.
That, yes, you can go like this through it, but like you definitely don't want to hold your hand there.
Oh man, yeah, you better be moving.
Yep, better be moving. So with such a large flame, it really requires careful movement, which goes back to some of the discipline. So these points are supposed to build on each other, right? With the careful movement, you're sort of creating images rather than tricks. Yes, with the weight and balance of it, you can do tricks, but especially at the beginning, like of my performance or like at the beginning of when you light it, you and I have talked about just creating images. I usually do it with one of them, rather than relying on something technical. You want the audience to have, like, it's easier for their brain to remember it, a cool image, just a snapshot, or to take an actual picture, rather than is to remember, oh yeah, he did that thing with his elbow. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, most of the technical tricks get lost on a normal layman's crowd, someone that'd be in a bar or something like that. If they don't have specific training in the props, they don't have a reference or knowledge of the tricks.
No muscle memory, yeah.
They just see, like, it's moving around him, but they do see, like, wow, that's a wall of flame. Like you're saying, wow, that's a neat image. And I think we were talking earlier about how this is unique because a staff, if I held like this, there would still be a wick here that could possibly be burning me. Poi, it could never even stick up. Yeah, but this you can just hold here, do these poses, like you were saying, wave it, kind of get that nice connection with the audience where you can hold it above you and make eye contact, be all dramatic. Yeah, it's nice.
Or in my case, I actually close my eyes, and it's during the Star Wars act, it's the sound of Darth Vader breathing, and I'm just walking with my eyes closed, doing this slow just creating that wall of fire back and forth.
No pendulum motion.
But it's obviously upward, so it's like a reverse pendulum. And I close my eyes while I do it. So the image is like, whoa, there's this guy who's crazy enough to hold a whole wick, and then also crazy enough to do it with his eyes closed.
Nice.
And like, hopefully I don't walk off the stage, but I walk around. So it's not technical, anybody could do it, but it's like, either I thought of it or I have the nerve to do it. So that's the image I'm doing nowadays. The old image I used to rely on was the image of like a crazy sort of tribal person, and I would walk around Lulu's restaurant in Destin, and I would like jump on tables and just hold it. And I would do like occasionally I'd do like one contact roll on my wrist or something to show like I can control this thing, but I'm also just gonna be crazy with it. Almost like, I don't want to say like savage, but like sort of a Native American or like a culture we're not familiar with. Sort of like getting really close to you and getting close to people, and they're like, whoa, look at this crazy person. And that's an image they'll remember, or an image that will at the very least get their attention. So what are some of the images that you create with this prop?
I think one of the major like images, like a picture you would get from it, would be I kind of use it as like wings. Like I often will do two at the same time, and just spinning them behind my back and like with big arms open, like chest out, just creates this big illusion of like spread wings. Or a lot of times when I start, it takes like 5 seconds to 10 seconds to get the flames really nice and big. So I usually start really slow, like light it very dramatically, bring it up, and then just kind of wave it, kind of like these wings in front of me until it builds, and then open up to big spins behind me, and that's also like, you get this wall of flame. Instead of just like one circle, you get like an entire wall of flame.
Yeah, and the image of going from like an X where they're connected to like, boom, two separate entities.
Yeah.
I always like starting with a lot of same time stuff, kind of like very simple like this, and then at one point I'll go into split time to show that like the image breaking the pattern. Set a pattern, break the pattern.
You can also, a lot of times I'll come out with them just held together like that, like a giant staff. Pretend it's a staff, and then I love doing an angel roll to like separate them. So one just like rolls magically across my hands.
Wait, they not only separated, but they like traveled along his body.
Floated to be two things.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that. I've tried that. It just clung to myself.
Man,
I've watched the tutorial several times.
I was gonna say there's a tutorial on it. I got several tutorials on single staff, double staff, and like all sorts of variations of those into sword and double sword.
The problem was I watched them when I wasn't ready. So like now I'd be ready to actually get into them.
There you go.
So it was like trying to walk.
There's a lesson. Go revisit those tutorials.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you only watch a tutorial once, you're kind of robbing yourself. It's like,
that's the benefit of having it recorded.
Yeah. So yeah, we basically wanted to communicate that the large wick affords you the ability to make images instead of a small wick where you'd rely on tricks to wow the audience. One takes less effort, it's more repeatable, and in a way it's less likely that you'll drop, even though it's kind of a more dangerous wick. It's more consistent in performance.
Yeah, the size of the wick definitely commands respect and presence. It says in the amount of fire, danger. And having that is, it's the first thing I saw when I was at Fire Drums and I first saw Brandon Simpson doing it. I saw across 100 people spitting fire, this giant wick, being like, what is that? So it demands attention.
Cool.
Now I see what's happening.
All right, so we've covered martial arts as a background, the wicks as the physical prop. Now sort of the sound element would be music. I've always struggled with relying too much on fast movements and music, and this prop has helped me slow down. What are your thoughts on that? Do you go fast, slow, and what is the outcome of that choice?
So for one thing, you have the ability to go slow with staves and swords. I like to make the joke I don't play with flaccid props. Because, poi, you don't have the ability to just slowly make a circle. You have to follow momentum.
Yeah.
Where this, I can go as slow as I want and make this whole circle. So with that, it lends itself to being able to go slower, but then when I want to go fast, it's there to go as fast as I want. I usually like to, in my routines, build anticipation. And I have a journalism degree in video production, but it's all about storytelling. And so I like having dynamics and a nice story arc. So rising action, falling action, and climaxes at certain points, with a resolution. So that is like I go slow, and then when the beat drops, go really fast. And then when you break that again, go slow again, and then go really fast again. And keeping the audience on their toes, guessing like what you're going to do next.
Oh yeah, at Pacific Fire Gathering, you had these interludes that was like really fun music, and then a voiceover narrative a voice that sounded like a character that everyone's going to recognize from Rick and Morty. And you had movements that went with it. So it was the ebb and flow was, it really used humor, like really tactfully. And each time you either switched props or grabbed another of that prop, and it was like very, very artful and masterfully written to have that ebb and flow. Where there were some other performers that I've seen over the years that they kind of start and then plateau, and the audience is like, we're not just going to keep clapping. Like, we want to clap for you, but it would be socially weird for us, like, in the middle of that plateau of energy and speed to just, like, be like, yeah. It's like,
that's why people clap when you drop as a performer. You know, here's the thing. I heard you saying the other day that if the audience is clapping at your mistakes, you're not giving them enough chances to clap for your successes. If they're not clapping during your thing, take a moment and pause. I tell people the way you make dynamics is fast, slow, high, low, and there's another I'm forgetting right now. But those are two we can talk about right now. Fast and slow can be not just moving slow, but stopping. Yeah. And having that stop is a automatic mental note for the audience to like, now's the time to clap.
Yeah.
You know, and letting them do it. Then when you drop, your prop stops. So their mind's like, oh, now's the time to clap.
Yeah.
You know? So it's just a funny thing. High and low can be big tosses down low to the ground, you know, using your space around you to use dynamics.
Okay, high and low. Yeah, I'd like to focus on that for a moment. So when you look at the waveform of music, it obviously does the same thing. It's like the manifestation of high-low. I think I have always used burn-offs and high tosses to get a clap, now that I think about it. If you do a high
big
toss...
and small was my next one. I was like, there's one more. Big and small. Fast, low, high, low, big and small. Yeah. Being big with your body, like those wings, or being small, like closed off.
Yeah, I like... never had anyone give it verbiage. I always kind of like, I was like, why are they clapping now? Oh yeah, because I just opened up, closed down, and then posed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really good tip.
Dynamics.
And what would be some ways that would show up with the sword? Like, fast and slow, we discussed how you can go as slow as you want. Is it easy to just launch into a fast movement?
So they're very, very heavy. This is a thing that I've like been working with for a long time. For one thing, you want to be really stretched out. I'm not sure the exact weight of them, but in terms of a prop, they're very heavy. And I have actually dislocated my shoulder by going slow and then just really fast into a move. I popped my shoulder completely out of socket and I had to pop it back in. Luckily, it wasn't on stage. It was just at a fire jam at a festival.
That's why we have fire jams and safety.
Exactly. That's why, you have places to train, try these things. But, you know, you want to, like, go to your own abilities, you know, especially if you're on stage. You don't want to go beyond your ability. The goal is to have everything look completely masterful. So you don't like just jerk right into it, but maybe like ease into it or what, you know, until you know what your limits are.
Yeah, push your own boundaries safely. And fast, slow. My sister once told me, I said, what was your favorite part about my performance of that song? And she goes, well, I just like when you went from really fast to really slow. I'm like, well, that's not a move. That's not, like, people don't say that. Say something that's, like, a movement that you liked. And she goes, I can't help it. That's just what I liked. And we kind of, like, butted heads. And that was me, like, you know, first spinning before I'd ever really performed. Not getting high, low, big, small, fast, slow. And it was just kind of a rude awakening. Like, wait a minute. So technical tricks are second to sort of a dynamic. You know, and sadly, not a lot of people know that. Like, I mean, they should know it.
There's a difference between being a technical prop manipulator and a stage theater performer.
Yeah.
Personally, I like the blend of both.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's what I really try to achieve with my acts.
And you do. I will have to hold my tongue because I will go into the tech of what you do without actually using your hands. It's incredible. It's like you basically have another hand in the crook of your wrist that can hold for fishtails. So it's like, I'm like, I hope you guys appreciate how hard that is. Try to do that with a sword or a stick or whatever it is. Try to do that with a counterbalance stick and you'll see how hard it is. So, yeah, it's kind of cool because you get big cheers using this prop because of the size of the flame and the martial arts culture of
Relatability.
it. Relatability. But then you also get big cheers from the people who appreciate tech. I'm like, he hit them both! It's like, it's rare.
Thanks.
One last part about slow music and a slow moving prop is something Patrick McGuire taught me. His move that he does is with his hat. He goes like this, and the hat comes off with his elbow, and he goes, and then he puts it back on, and he gets a laugh, and then he just goes, And he says it's important to breathe on stage and to let your audience see you breathe, because it relaxes the performer and it relaxes the audience. It's like just as important. So I thought that was really cool. Like I said at the beginning of my act, I do a breathing, eyes closed part, just to get that out of the way. Do you ever have a part of your set where you use slow or like deliberate, maybe even audible breathing to be the slow part of your fast, slow, fast kind of?
There definitely, yeah. I usually find most songs that I enjoy performing to tend to have either 2 or 3 main sections.
Yeah.
And this is like just a random song. I'm not talking about my very deliberately orchestrated big acts, but like the things I do at like Dante's, at bars I perform at, most songs have like a full section and a middle section where it drops low for a while, and then they kind of either repeat that section or continue on. And during that drop is always the time I switch my props.
Yep, same.
Maybe it's the time I like take off my jacket, wipe my brow, and like look at the audience a little bit, just like give it a breath, if nothing else.
That's a good one. I gotta remember that one.
Yeah, just like maybe like, that was hard, huh? I saw that, just kind of a moment, and I like it. I learned if there's not enough time in those sections for me to do what I want, let's say I do this big thing, I want enough time to run over, set my props down, run back with a new set, and maybe like, be positioned to do something different. If I try it in my rehearsal and there's not enough time, I know how to edit music, fortunately.
Oh, nice.
So I do video production and I know how to edit music. So I'll go in and I'll cut it and just extend that section. I would much rather have time for me to slowly controlled walk, set it down, walk back, and be ready, than rush.
Yeah,
and look
I've
like
had to deal with that for years. That's a good strategy.
Rushing is horrible. It looks bad on stage. It looks like you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It looks like you're not timed well and practiced well. It just lends itself to looking amateur. Where if you have full confidence of a slow walk over, confident set down, grab the next prop, please. Thank you, audience.
Dude, I can't wait to show you.
You know.
I cannot wait to show you my bit from Dante's.
Nice.
Oh, you're gonna love it. It's it might even be.
He just started working at the same bar I perform at.
Hey, I might have built a little bit too much time because it's kind of like there's one of these ones where you're like, and like you can hear something like in the audience or something. But yeah, I think that the sword has allowed me to open up my like third eye, if you will, to the ebb and flow.
Nice.
Poi is like you just keep them moving.
Yeah.
Juggling clubs, if they're not in the air, what are you doing? The sword,
Some
it's
Legos.
like
Legos.
That's what I always do. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so between the martial arts, the prop construction, and the musical interlude potential of this prop, we've covered, sort of the philosophy behind it, what it is in your hand, and sort of what the audience hears and experiences, and how they participate in it. A choice I make. This is the last two topics are have a little bit of controversial. I guess only one of them, and it's this one. I use the sword as a backlight for me, so I don't burn it all the way to the end of its life. I mean, they're fully dipped, so they're burning for. I mean, how long does a Ninja Pirate sword burn for?
I'd say 1.5 minutes good. 2
Yeah.
minutes. Once you pass the 1.5 minute mark, it starts dimming out and losing the effect.
Yeah, so I have I think I have 30 or 40 seconds where I'm using it, where I'm like, all right, I'm using it for its prime. And then I just took ABS plastic and made pipes, where I have 3 juggling torches, and then I have these on either side. So it's kind of a page out of Johnny Noriel's book and Jordan Rodig's book, where I use them like right and left, and then I do my stuff in the middle of it. So behind me are these huge sort of jet flames backlighting me, making muscle curves look more pronounced, making me look like I'm not afraid of fire, making me look demonic, making me look like sort of hellfire, And I use it as sort of a cheat to make myself look better because I don't have the technical prowess with the prop. What are your thoughts of, is that sort of blasphemy? You're wasting it. Or is it kind of like, yeah, I get it. What are your thoughts on me relying on it as a backlight?
I mean, I get it. I've done it in my acts. I don't use it often. I totally have done it before if I want to switch into something else. I'll take a staff that's still lit, set it down on a stand, and maybe get 2 more, spin doubles, but then pick up the third and go into 3 as like that's the finale.
Yeah.
So usually if I leave it lit, I'm leaving it there to use again.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with like you're saying, the stage performance of Johnny Nurio, a Portland performer for years, has used that trick of light something, show this big theatrical moment, and just set it down and use it as it's filling the stage with a lot of fire. It looks good, but I think it brings up another good topic that it kind of gets to, which is I am 100% on board with never spin your prop until it's out. That is a big mistake that a lot of fire performers do. They'll light the prop, spin, out. And if you spin until it's out, you're robbing yourself of a lot of great moments there. You're robbing yourself of the ability to show control, that I have the ability to stop this at any moment and then hand it to a safety and they put it out. I'm done with it. That shows proficiency. If you spin it until it's gone, it's like, oh, thank God that went out. I don't know what I would have done with it. You know, and you just get that natural feeling.
Yeah, I kind of realized that over the years.
The other thing that you're kind of
point.
The other thing you're touching on is if you leave it lit, it lights you.
Yeah.
So when I'm spinning, I'll stop with it and hold it by me. It lights me up for my bow, and then I hand it to the safety, kind of a thing.
Double trouble, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want it to go out because then you're in the dark. You know, the lighting man on the stage or whatever has been relying on the fact that you're self-lit by your prop. If at the very pinnacle moment of you about to finish your act and take a bow, it goes dark, you just like disappeared into the night.
It's like, see ya.
You know, and unless the lighting guy's really on his moment, it's like, oh, turn the lights on. Like, he doesn't know to do that. You want that prop to continue to light you. So.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I've noticed like even some props have gone out early and they just kept spinning. I'm like,
it's a bad feeling. It's like, oh, you should have timed that better.
Somebody told me it was a girl spinning at Pegasus recently. She said she was doing a performance and she had one sword and then she like lit it from something off stage and she did this big move right at the beginning and it put it out. You know how they wait sometimes? I was like,
they take a while to build up too.
Yeah, she didn't have a lighter on her. Probably had no pockets or anything. I'm like, that's so awkward.
Yeah.
But that's why, like, I've had props go out where I didn't have a lighter on me or whatever, and so having that there, I'm just like, boop, no problem.
Sure.
Also, like, I noticed that they give you a tiny candle up there. Sometimes it's kind of hard to get, like, a big or, like, a tricky or weird, like, dragon staff wick or something. Like, I'll, like, put the tiny flame out.
Yeah, totally. If you, like, smash it into it.
I'm like, I can light anything off of this.
Yeah,
this is great.
Yeah, it's useful.
Yeah, so in case I need more fire, it's useful. And you already explained how you feel about Nuriel and Rodig, so I'm glad. I thought it would be more controversial, but you have a really good rationale of why you might do that and why you might not do that.
I mean, I don't mind when people do it. I just haven't really utilized that as... I've never felt like it's a necessity. Yeah. I have recommended it. Like Jordan, when he made that act, I told him, fill up the stage with fire. As much fire as you can. If you want to be as impressive as you can to a non-technical audience,
it was so good
as
for
much
his act.
fire as you can totally helps.
Like I said, I thought his act was one of the absolute best. I was so like I was like tearing up seeing. I was like, I didn't know he did that. I thought he was like a straight cut kind of like pretty serious guy, and then he got up there and for lack of a better word, I mean he just killed it, you know, in a very saucy way, if that's the right word. I was like, it's so great to see that side of him. Anyway, cool. So that wraps up my idea of backlighting. Let's move on to character models.
Okay.
Alright, so the idea of a character model for me is I'm not just myself. I used to just be myself on stage. They would like introduce me, they'd be like, and up next, Troy. It sounded so bad. And I was kind of sheepish. I was like, hey guys. Now I'm like, no. Like the pirates that I used to perform with, he's like, he pulled me aside, man, you're not Troy anymore. From this day forward, you are Tortuga Troy. For some reason, like, you gotta have, like, a funky sounding name, because their names were, like, Kirby Jake and Captain Davy and Bucket were their names.
Great.
And Bucket played the drums. So, like, it took me way too long to realize that just a different name, a different outfit, a different music theme, like, just be a character, you know? And it doesn't have to be a unique name. It doesn't have to be an outfit, but at least be, like, one step removed from yourself. You know, I feel like almost every clowning class has taught me that, to be a character. And if you're skilled enough where you don't need that, like, that's awesome. But I'm not. So that's why I rely on, like, huge flames and these things. I don't have the the technical prowess and the stage presence to be just myself. I have to like go to the next level, which for me, presently is Star Wars. Like as a kid, I like daydreamed about it. As an adult, I can live it, which gives me this like kind of eerie grin. I'm like, I'm doing it, you know. How do you use swords to fulfill a character model for yourself?
I mean, I would also say I grew up on Star Wars. I actually used to collect the 1970s action figures. I still have a massive collection of them downstairs.
Dude, I gotta see that. So did I.
Yeah, I got an original Rancor monster in the box.
I think I saw that.
It's down in the living room.
It's so badass.
Yeah. So I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Always have been. I'm also a huge Ninja Turtles fan.
Oh yeah.
Always have been there.
So those in your kitchen.
Yep. So it's like, you know, that pop culture from the 80s, the 90s, and Star Wars was still relevant then, you know, it's still relevant today in 2019. It's totally been a thing that has, like, inspired me being able to, like, float these swords around and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I originally always go to lightsaber. You know, it's literally a saber of light fire, you know, so
yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Are you Sith or are you Jedi? Which one do you go
I'm
more?
probably more Jedi. Yeah, which is, you know, but, you know, I float back and forth. I don't have a problem with the dark side.
You should do an act or you kill me.
We could battle.
I'd be down.
We could battle on stage.
Maybe not the fire head, but some sort of fire, like, splitter, like, you know.
I think, to answer that question more specifically, if I'm in a fire circle, there's no need to be a character.
Right,
I can be unabashedly me.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and that's something that I know I've just really enjoyed. I just purely enjoy playing with a prop, being goofy, and enjoying it.
Yeah.
If you're doing a stage act, then yeah, I totally agree. You should think about it ahead of time and understand what character fits your audience, fits your music, fits your costuming, whether that character is you or whether that character is someone completely different than you. You know, my name is Tyler, but I perform under the name Spades. I get introduced up next as Spades. And I could just do a classy act where I'm in a suit and a top hat, and I just spin to some awesome, more fun, like, remix music.
Electro swing or something.
Yeah, or like, you know, this week I think I'm going to do a song to a remix of Jay-Z's Big Pimpin'.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
And the character is, I'm just me, out there having fun.
Yep.
Big Pimpin'.
Oh, yeah.
But then, you know, there's other acts that are very well manicured, like the one I did at Pacific Fire Gathering, that I go through specific things relating to specific characters, whether that is a Jedi, or a Ninja Turtle, or,
Rick.
you know, a clown, or Rick from Rick and Morty. This one I'm Rick from Rick and Morty the whole time.
Great choice. That was nailed it.
Yep.
And then Darth Vader gloves for a moment.
Yep, exactly. So that was the dark side. I got Darth Vader gloves.
Yes,
yep.
we got him.
Yep.
Do people miss opportunities by not using swords to be a character?
No, I think you can be a character with any of them.
Yeah.
Like, I think a character can come out in any way.
Yeah, the Ninja Turtles are 4 different props.
Sure,
so.
Exactly, yeah. Or, like, you know, there's all sorts of ways you can be very graceful, or soft, or feminine, or very intense, or aggressive, or masculine. And that itself can be a character. You know, whether... Like, going back to what we were talking about earlier about dynamics, I love seeing someone be a ballerina floating around to some classical music, then a record scratch, and just dubstep goes on and they fight off a bunch of ninjas.
That's exactly what I did for Fire Entertainer of the Year.
Yeah,
it was for release, and then I just hit him with the dab when it drops, pick up the third poi, and I'm like,
Yeah, so that's dynamics, exactly. That's going from slow to fast, from soft to big, you know.
That was the first time I'd done it with such an obnoxious, like, transition. Normally it'd be like, I set it down, I'm like, I'm going to transition now, but this one I was literally just like, skeet, and then all of a sudden, like third poi, and then big flame, you know? Yeah, it makes it fun. Because when I hit the dab, there's some dude in the audience just like, he guffawed. He was like, bah! He like, couldn't believe himself, because he was yawning at for release. He's like, oh god, how long is this going to last?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay.
Nice.
Caught my attention.
Yep.
Alright, so we've covered a lot of topics, including the actual prop, the effect of the prop, the effect of the music you choose to match the prop, and then the general philosophy behind it. I'm not going to recap everything you said, but essentially, this is not just a stick on fire. It has a lot more potential, and the reason that I'm glad I communicated, with our community, with you, is to show that you can do a lot more with this specifically than just spin it like a staff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad we've covered that to a much greater degree than I anticipated. The way I wanted to wrap it up is just to bring up all 5 and give you the last word on whichever one you wanted to talk about. So we had the martial arts background. The prop itself has a large wick. the music you choose is typically slow, the character model, as well as choosing to use it as like a backlight or not. Which one of those do you want to put your 2 cents in on the most?
I don't know if there's like any of those that I would consider more important than the other. I would say that it's a really, you covered it, it's a really unique prop, basically because of the asymmetry.
Yeah.
The asymmetry gives it a beautiful visual effect. And, you know, it's a very versatile prop. I've been dealing with 1 sword is a beautiful martial arts thing. 2 swords, you can get into a lot more technical, trippy things. And I'm now recently releasing a bunch of 3 sword stuff.
Yep.
So I'm doing sword juggling, on-body triple sword, and trying to explore that because it's just things that people have never seen with that amount of fire and that amount of technicality with such a heavy, big, flaming prop.
Yeah, technical danger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's super fun. It's eye-catching. So, yeah, thanks for having me out. I'm glad to be here and chatting. I think one thing I would like to end with is these are great added with different sparkle effects or fire effects. You can add in different chemicals to make the flame green or red. You can put glitter on to make it sparkle, and they look so good with a sword because you can spin around sparkling and then like hit them together, and they both just send showers of sparks. It's really great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and check out some tutorials I have online. My YouTube is Spinning Spades. My Facebook is Spinning Spades. My Instagram is Spinning Spades. So there, it's all that. I have lots of tutorials on my YouTube channel. I have a bunch of fun videos of performances on my Facebook. And I have daily inspiration stuff of staff, juggling, and some sword stuff on my Instagram. And I travel around, so, you know, hit me up and see if I'll be at an event near you soon.
I'm looking forward to it, Spades. Thanks for your time.
Cool. Thanks, Troy. And one last trick.